Today I am working on some sawmill improvements for our Frontier Sawmill OS27, and let me flip around here and I'll explain. Oh, everybody say hi to Jade. Jade says hi. So here's our mill, and you see we got some logs staged out here ready to cut. So I bought just the standard package. It comes with two sections of track that's 14 foot long. The saw head mounted that actually only allow us to cut an 11-foot board, and so that was the first issue. Some of these logs are 20 foot plus, and we want to be able to get the full length out of there. So the first goal is to extend the track. I had contacted Frontier about buying the extension kit back in the winter, but never heard back from them, and it was kind of pricey, and especially with freight coming from New York. So I just decided I was going to make my own. I ordered some angle iron that's the same dimension as these galvanized rails that you see here, and they're 10 foot long instead of 7. So now I'm going to have the ability, when I add that 10 feet, we'll be able to cut 21 foot long logs and get some good lumber out of there, as opposed to this their little 7-foot edition, which would have only got me up to 18 feet. So now 21 feet, that's a good improvement. Now the second improvement, that's actually arguably more important, is we're going to get this thing nice and level, and I am building basically a pad, a footing for the track, if you will. Right now it's just sitting on dirt, and we did level it when we installed it, but it's gone through the winter. I had a little frost heaving, it's sank in the mud, sank down in some sawdust, as you can see. So we're gonna have a brand new bed, and that's what this is all about. On our property we had some massive old railroad bridge timbers, and that's what these two are. This was an 8.5 wide, 17-inch tall, 22.5 foot long timber, all from one tree. It's all old growth Doug fir, really beautiful stuff. I was able to rip this timber in half. You can see the fresh cut there. I had to use a multitude of tools. I started out with the skill saw, ripping one side at a time, and then I came back with the sawzall to cut out the middle section. It wasn't super perfect, as you can see here. The sawzall kind of wandered off in a few spots and left some weird little low spots, but all in all it came out pretty good. You can see there was the depth of the circular saw, so it only went about 2 1/4 per side. After I cut it, I came back with an electric planer and some hand planes and just cleaned up the surface to make it a little flatter and look a little nicer. After that, I added some cross members. I just have random timbers laying around here at the old shop, so I was able to get 5 cross members in, and then to finish it off I put some diagonal bracing just to shore it up, because I do plan to sort of use this as a skid. As you can see, I cut the bottoms a little angle, so we'll be able to just pull this thing around wherever we need it to be, or make it easier to get on and off the trailer. So it's going to have a little torsional force on it, so that's what I put these metal bracings in here, to just sort of really brace it up and make it sturdy. So this will be the new foundation. When we move to the new shop, we'll be able to just load the whole thing on a trailer and then offload it and get it into position where the sawmill shed is gonna go. Well, hello. I ran out of time yesterday, but I made some pretty good progress. Let me get up to the new spot and show you what's happening this go around. Okay, so I was able to get the old rail moved up here, mounted to the new bed, but more importantly I started getting the new section in. You can see there the darker colored angled iron. Kind of took a while Had to make sure that this was lined up just absolutely perfect, because the saw head has little rollers that come down these rails, and you don't want a bump or a little gap, and you want them to be lined up that way as well. So it's a combination of using some of this yellow flat bar that comes with the kit. This is what they provide. There's a little hook that rides up under here, and that keeps the saw head from tipping over. So I took this and slid it down. I was able to use some of the factory holes and just slid it down about 6 inches. And that gave me a little overlap right there. And then on the inside I had to fabricate these little splice bars to tie it all together. And then there's also, you use the bunk itself. See, there's 4 bolts, two on the left, 2 on the right, and that helps tie everything together. So we're spliced at this point, and now the final thing, I've got some bunks, some new bunks cut. I'm going to start installing these equally spaced. This mill, the factory bunks are 3x6 rec tubing. I didn't have any of that size. I had some 2x5 available, but I also had some 1-inch tubing, so I just kind of tacked those in. So I got my 6 inches right here. The width is the same. I'm not quite wide enough, but that won't matter all that much. I've got holes pre-punched for where they're going to mount to the angle iron, so I'm going to space them out and start finding my holes to drill in the angle iron here. In the meantime, I built this little spacer to hold the track width where it needs to be down at the end, and I'll use that as a guide for these intermediate racing pieces as well. Alright, so the bunks are on. Turned out pretty nice. It wasn't quite as hard as I thought it would be. I ended up putting 2 bolts in each one just to make them nice and stiff and strong, keep it from racking. So those are in. I'm moving on to the next step, and that is getting this thing leveled. And when I say level, I don't necessarily mean perfectly level, you know, using a bubble level or laser or anything. What I mean is planar. This thing needs to be, all these bunks need to be in the same plane. It doesn't matter so much if my bed is a little off level, if it's tilting front to back or even a little side to side. You know, that just means I have to, the head might try to roll down some, or I might have to push it up. That's all that means. But it's, I did check it, it is fairly level in that direction. So I'm not really worried too much about that. What I am worried about is having these bunks all lined up. So I've got, well, 2 things. I'm checking it in 3 dimensions. I've got a string running end to end to try to make sure that the rails are straight. You can see, like right there, I'm a little off, so I need to push this in a little before I attach the foot. So I'm checking that plane, and then I've also got a string run across the top. See, I've got a little spacer here. This is just some extra 3/4 steel tube that I had left over. Same thing on the opposite end. I got a piece clamped, I got a string, and then I've got a little scrap, and I'm gonna run down and check. Hard to see in the camera, but you can see I'm not quite lined up. The bunk is a little bit high. My spacer is above the string, so I'm gonna come and adjust the threads on the foot here, and that's how I get those level. I'll just do that on every one, and this will probably take a little bit of time to get everything straightened out. I got the ends screwed in, as you can see there, so these aren't going to move. I've also gone ahead and run a level side to side. I do want it level in that direction, so what I'm going to do is level the right side using the string, and then I'm going to come back with the spirit level and then go do the left side. So we'll see how that goes in a bit. Okay, a few hours later. That was pretty tedious work, but it feels good to get it done. It's going to really give me some good results when we're sawing some of these longer logs. So that part's all done, thank goodness. So we got a nice flat bed. The next step is to get the saw head mounted back on this end. I'm going to use the hoist on the truck and just drive around and drop it back down. You know, when we put this thing together, the instructions said to either use a forklift or 4 able bodies. I sold my forklift in order to purchase some other equipment, so I don't have that, so I had to get creative and use this little truck hoist. It's way back there, but it's been working pretty well. For if you're just by yourself, if you can rig something up like that, it'll go a long way in helping you lift really heavy things on your own, just using your truck receiver. I've also got a receiver on the front hitch of that truck, which makes it pretty useful. And if I ever wanted to, I could come back and weld some tubing just anywhere on this truck or even a trailer to mount that thing, make it a lot easier. So stay tuned.